Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Griffith, and this is the start of the Back to Basics Sports podcast with Michael Griffith. I want to say a special shout out to Mr. Raymond Kirshner for setting this all up and making this possible. This is his studio, his camera, his lighting, his everything. This where I'm at right now is all to Mr. Kirsch. I appreciate it very much, and this is a crazy opportunity for someone my age to have. I texted Mr. Kirsch over the weekend saying, Mr. Kirsch, I want to start a podcast. And he said, absolutely no problem. And now we're here. This is not even 4 days after I texted him, and now we're here already filming the first episode on this fine Tuesday afternoon. I couldn't be more thankful. In all honesty, this is one of the best opportunities I've ever had in my life because this is something I want to do with my career, and I just want to say thank you to Mr. Kirsch. This is truly something special to me, and I want to say thank you to him again. I can't even thank him enough for what he's doing for me right now because this is huge, and this is something I'm going to look to continue for a long time. And hopefully everyone that's watching will come on this journey with me because this is going to be something special. This is something I'm going to give it my all towards. This is something that I really, really do care about because it's something I want to do with my career, and the way everything's trending right now with podcasts and sports podcasts and stuff like that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all stuff like that, this is my future. In a way, this is what I want to kickstart that journey. So once again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching the first episode. I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Kirsch for setting this all up, and we're going to get started. All right. This is the first weekend of this podcast, like the first sports weekend of this podcast, and it is a hell of a weekend to start off with. We had Championship Sunday, where we saw both conference play their championship games in the NFL. We also had UFC 257. And those are two of my favorite sports right there. And we had one of the best weekends ever, in my opinion, to watch sports, especially those two sports. First, we're going to start off with Championship Sunday. We had the Chiefs and Bills play. They were the night game. They were the 6:40 game. Me personally, I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. So I wanted the Bills to win. Had my Bills jersey on. Had my Josh Allen jersey on. I wanted the Bills to win. But what I saw out of Kansas City, and there was a story coming up to is whether or not Patrick Mahomes was going to be able to play or not. And, man, did Patrick Mahomes come to play. My Lord. But that wasn't the most impressive takeaway I had from this game. What I took away from this game was the Chiefs' defense, especially the secondary, came out and played some football. I mean, that's an offense that was one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. Had a great young quarterback and a great wideout, Stephon Diggs, who led the league and I believe receptions and yards this year. And the Chiefs said no. But the Bills came to Arrowhead, definitely looking, because the Chiefs aren't a team, or the Bills, aren't a team that were looking to run the ball. The Bills want the ball down the field. They want to throw it to Stephon Diggs. They know they have a quarterback who can air the ball out. They have a decent tight end, Dawson Knox. Cole Beasley's a security blanket no matter where he goes, as we saw in Dallas when he was previously there, and the Bills this year, who was having an incredible underrated season. So we saw that the Bills obviously weren't looking to run the ball because that's not what they do. But the Chiefs defense said you're not going to do it. The Chiefs defense, I don't know what Josh Allen could have done better because the Chiefs defense had everyone locked down. The way they designed their defense to have the secondary just play so well, I mean, that's a testament to the coaching over there. That's a testament to the players in the game, especially the secondary. I was blown away. I was watching this game, like, wow, this secondary unit came out to play. And they did. They took one of the best offensive attacks, especially one of the best duos in the NFL, and said, you guys aren't going to do anything. And the Bills didn't play terrible. I mean, there's a few instances where they got in the end zone, and you got to finish drives in the red zone. You have to finish them because especially in an AFC championship game against an explosive offense like the Chiefs, which we'll touch on later, you have to finish in the red zone. But you can't walk away with 2 field goals when you can easily score a touchdown. Scoring in the red zone is one of the hardest things. Anyone who's played football could tell you that. Anyone in the NFL could tell you that. I'm sure coaches feel the exact same way. That is a hard thing to do, to score in the red zone, because it just tightens up. You don't have as much field to play with. It just tightens up. Defenses are going to be right in your face. It's just a tight area to score in. And the Bills found that out the hard way, not being able to convert on 2 touchdowns when they could have not taken the momentum away from the Chiefs, but they definitely could have gotten the game more in their favor. But now we're going to touch on the Chiefs' offense because we talked about how good their defense played. And to me personally, I thought the secondary came out and played. And that's not even mentioning the pressure they were getting on Josh Allen. The Bills have an okay offensive line. Not the best, but certainly not the worst offensive line. But the Chiefs' front line, the Chiefs' front seven were able to get to the quarterback and pressure him. And he's still a young quarterback. What is he? This is his third or fourth year in the league. And young quarterback AFC Championship game in Arrowhead, it's a hard thing to deal with. I couldn't imagine being Josh Allen in that situation where you're looking at every white jersey on your team is covered by a red jersey on their team. There's nowhere to throw the ball, and then as soon as you think you have a decision, you got a red jersey in your face. So that is on their defense. Now their offense, wow. What else can we say about the Chiefs' offense? I mean, they have the best attack in the NFL. It's like you had the best quarterback in the league, who by far is the best quarterback in the league. Not going to win MVP this year, but the best quarterback in the league. Then you have Tyreek Hill, who, what else can be said about Tyreek Hill? The man is not just a speedster at this point. And for anyone who thinks he's just a speedster, which I hope is not in anyone's opinion, you need to watch some football, man, because Tyreek Hill is electric. He is. He's fast. He could run precise routes. He's strong. Some people say he's one of the strongest pound-for-pound dudes in the league. What is he, 5? I think he's 5'10", too. So Tyreek Hill is a dynamic playmaker with a dynamic playmaking quarterback. Then you go to Travis Kelce, hands down the best tight end in football. What can't Travis Kelce do? Because I swore either one of them two were open all game. You could either throw it to Travis Kelce or you could throw it to Tyreek Hill because they were open all game. And that's a testament to what the Chiefs' offense brings because, hey, if you want to double cover Tyreek Hill, that's perfectly fine. We'll just dink and dunk it to Travis Kelce. Oh, now you want to put a linebacker on Travis Kelce and have some zone help over there just in case, the linebacker can't stay on him. Oh, it's okay. We'll just throw it to Tyreek Hill. That is such a spoil of riches for Patrick Mahomes. And people might say, well, put someone else there in that situation and see what they could do. I bet you anyone could succeed with that. Yes, a lot of quarterbacks could succeed with what Patrick Mahomes has. He's spoiled with weapons. But Patrick Mahomes is that electric. He is legit. I believe you put Patrick Mahomes anywhere in the league, he plays well. I don't care if you put him on the Jets. I'm sure he will play well because Patrick Mahomes is that type of playmaker, and he's that good. He is legit. He deserves everything he has in his career. And he's probably going to win the Super Bowl again. He's only 25 years old. And he's going to have he might have 2 Super Bowl rings. He has 1 MVP. He already has a Super Bowl MVP, and he's the richest contract in NFL history. He's 25 years old. But we can all look at the Chiefs and say there's one man who's responsible for so much of what the Chiefs do well. That is Andy Reid. What can be said about Andy Reid? I mean, there was the question, his time management. He can't win the big one, but Andy Reid has found the team that him and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, man. I wish I was a fly on a wall for one of their meetings to see what they're making up on the offensive side of the ball because the way that offense comes out and plays is dynamic. They can do anything. They could run the ball really well, too. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a good running back. They have Le'Veon Bell, too, who's been hurt, but they can do anything on offense. The offensive line plays really well, too, and that they're built to be successful on offense, and they play, and the defense usually comes along like they did last year. I remember towards the end of the year going to the postseason, the question was defense going to be able to go along with this great offense? The defense showed up. Going towards the end of the year, going into the playoffs, and that historic playoff run that Mahomes and the Chiefs went on last year was just, wow. There's not another team who could do that. You're down at double digits in every one of your playoff games, including the Super Bowl, and you win all of them, including the Super Bowl. That is next level stuff, and that comes down to a lot of coaching. A lot of that has to do with the coaching because imagine coaching that team. Like, hey guys, like we've been down double digits in each of our playoff games, but none of them quit. That's a hard thing to do. None of them quit, and that speaks to the culture they have built over there. And Andy Reid's the head coach of that ship over there, so you have to believe the culture Andy Reid installed over there is the reason why they were never say never, and they were confident in each other. hey, we have the best quarterback in the NFL. We have the best tight end in the NFL. We have a top wideout in the NFL, and we have a great all-around defense. Not just a defense that has one good unit. The defense for the Chiefs is good all around, and that was shown last year, and it's showing again this year. They will have a challenge in the Buccaneers, I believe, but we'll touch on the Super Bowl later. We still have 2 weeks for that, but we got to talk about the other game. Speaking of the Buccaneers and Packers game. That game was it was a good game. It was, but I walked away with it. Just Aaron Rodgers, he's a great quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks ever, probably the best quarterback ever when you want to talk about pure quarterback talent. I don't think he's the greatest player of all time. We'll touch on that later too, but something about him. He just rubs me the wrong way, to put it like that. Let's see. We look at the first half. Let's take a look at the first half. The Buccaneers played really well in the first half. Tom Brady played really well, was on track to have an incredible game. But you look at the end of the first half, that pick that Aaron Rodgers threw, you can't throw that pick. That's situational football. 38 seconds left in the half, you can't throw a pick because now you give the ball to the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. And Tom Brady has weapons around him. I mean, we can look at that offense all day and be amazed and say that offense can bang with the Chiefs. I mean, all honesty, talent-wise, like if we're just looking on paper, we can say that offense bangs with the Chiefs. But you give the ball back to Brady with 38 seconds left and good field position? Come on. Like what are you doing? That right there is what changed the game. You can talk about later in the holding penalty that was a hold, by the way, pass interference. We could look at a bunch of things later on in that game, but the play that changed the game was the interception at the end of the half, which turned into 6 points for the Buccaneers going into halftime. Tom Brady and Scotty Miller over Kevin King. That's what changed the game. That's the moment right there. And a lot of games you can find a few plays that change the game, but that right there was the play. That doesn't happen, and there's a completely different game because the second half, my Lord, what happened to Tom Brady? Three interceptions in the second half? Come on. But the problem with the 3 interceptions is, okay, Aaron, you got your defense to play for you. Your defense has gotten 3 turnovers. Your defense, you asked your defense to step up, and they did. So what did Aaron Rodgers do with 3 turnovers? Well, he got 6 points. He got 6 points with 3 turnovers. You can't do that. You have the opportunity to get the ball 3 extra times. Your defense, you asked your defense to pick up the slack. Your defense did it. Because Aaron Rodgers was playing a good game. And then his defense turned it on too. Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions, and off those 3 interceptions, you get 6 points? Come on, you're not going to win a game playing like that. And then the controversial call to go for the field goal. I mean, yeah, is that the best call in the world when you have Aaron Rodgers at your quarterback? No. But if we look at the play before, I mean, why aren't you running the ball, Aaron? I mean, you have the whole field, and even if you don't get the touchdown, let's just say he doesn't get the touchdown, which I think he would. I believe that Aaron Rodgers would have scored the touchdown if he decided to run the ball, go straight and go more towards the pylon. I'm sure his blockers would have picked up any incoming DB. Why not run the ball? But it's okay. It's a mistake. Everyone makes a mistake. Got it. And then the field goal call, I mean, it's not the best call in the world. It's not. Keep in mind, Matt LaFleur, a young coach. This was his second year coaching in his second straight NFC Championship game. Young coach, and he's gonna learn. He will learn because that obviously not the best call in that situation, considering what you have on the offensive side of the ball. And the Buccaneers aren't so talented when it comes to the back end of their defense. So it's not the best call, but he kicks the 3 points. So the problem with that, though, is Aaron Rodgers after the game, and then we know what happens with the defensive holding, which was a flag. Yes, that needed to be called. I don't care about anything else that happened earlier in the game. In that moment, that is a penalty. Each ref has its own lifespan. In that lifespan, there was a penalty committed by Kevin King. So, yeah, that's a flag. 110% should have been thrown. So oblivious and obvious that it was a hold. Like, if you don't think it was a hold, you were oblivious to the fact. So, it comes down. A lot of people say it comes down to that, but it really came down to that first half interception, which turned into 7 points for the Buccaneers. But Aaron Rodgers after the game saying, "Well, was it my call?" Aaron, it doesn't matter if it was your call. What did you do when your defense stepped up? You asked for your defense to step up. The game was ready for you to win. What did you do with that? You got 6 points. And he said he doesn't know what he has in his future. Well, he should stay with Green Bay because Green Bay is that good. Green Bay should have won that game without a doubt. Green Bay is a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And if he wants to get traded out of that situation, man, why? Because you didn't like the call, because you just feel like you can't win. That team is built to win. 110% built to win. But hey, that's where he wanted to approach it, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. But that was my take on that game. I think the Buccaneers played really well. The defense, I think altogether they played really well. The offense played really good in the first half. The defense had to pick up in the second half, and that's a good win for the Buccaneers. And we're going to talk about Brady later. I don't want to get too much into Brady right now, but congratulations for going to his 10th Super Bowl. Well, we're gonna hit on 10 Super Bowls later. My Lord, that's insane. But next, as I said, one of the best weekends for me in sports history. We had Conor McGregor fighting again this weekend, UFC 257. Me, myself, I am a big MMA guy. Love UFC, love Conor McGregor, just love the sport. Something I fell in love with over quarantine when it started. I remember just watching. Joe Rogan actually is what got me into it. I remember I started checking out Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan, obviously a commentator for the UFC, and he just always was talking about fighting. I'm like, this just sounds interesting. I have a wrestling background. I love wrestling. And MMA, you got the grappling aspect of it. So I'm like, this sounds awesome. I mean, you guys are fighting each other with their fists. They're putting each other in chokeholds, wrestling each other, they're kicking each other. I mean, this sounds awesome. So I got into it. And wow, I mean, UFC has been something that's been in my daily routine since March. I bought the UFC Fight Pass. I can watch any fight ever in that organization's history. I can watch some of the Pride events. If you don't know, that's another an MMA organization that was huge for the explosion of MMA. Not as big as the UFC for its explosion, but true MMA fans know a lot about Pride, know a lot about it. But this weekend we had the return of the Mac. We had Conor McGregor coming to fight, UFC 257. We had an electric debut, too, by Michael Chandler, Bellator guy, former champion in Bellator, coming over to the UFC, which the UFC is viewed as the big league. You're in the UFC, you made it. There's other great promotions out there. You have your Bellators, you have your PFLs, you have these other organizations, but the UFC is the cream of the crop. That's where the best fighters in the world go. That's the aura it holds when you go to the UFC. So we're in the last two fights of the night, we're set up for an incredible pay-per-view. You got the return of Conor McGregor fighting Dustin Poirier, who's one of the best lightweights in the world. Then you have a debuting Michael Chandler, former Bellator champ, with something to prove against Dan Hooker, who's coming off a loss to Dustin Poirier. The rest of the card, the main card, was pretty good. The prelims have some good fights. Nothing like that blew me away, but the main card was good, especially the last two fights. Definitely worth the money to me, honestly. So, what happened? Let's take a little recap before we get into Conor McGregor. I want to talk about the co-main event. The co-main event was between Michael Chandler and Dan Hooker. Obviously, how we said, we had a debuting of Michael Chandler from Bellator. Wow. If you don't know what happened, Michael Chandler got a first round TKO in 2.5 minutes. And it was against a top fighter in the world, because Dan Hooker is that legit. Dan Hooker is an incredible fighter. Anyone can tell you that who's watched him. I mean, he went the distance with Dustin Poirier last June in one of the best fights I've ever watched live. Like I said, I'm new, kind of more new into this sport, but I watched that live. I remember sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time watching Dustin versus Dan. And so Dan Hooker needed to bounce back, and he was one of the only guys who were going to take Michael Chandler on. Michael Chandler's a scary dude, man. He's a former Bellator champ, and like I said, UFC is viewed as the top of the line, but Bellator has no slumps over there. There's former UFC champions over there. Bellator is a great organization. And Michael Chandler came on to the UFC with something to prove. And that man did he prove something, because the way Michael Chandler approached that fight. I mean, I'm not very informed on Michael Chandler's style. I wish I'm definitely gonna watch more Michael Chandler now. Watch his past fights in Bellator, but wow, I mean, he is an explosive man. I believe he's 5'9", 5'10", might be the same size as Conor, 156, jacked, looked incredible. But Dan Hooker's like 6'2". I don't know how. Let me look how tall Dan Hooker is, because the size difference was obvious. Dan Hooker is no slouch in any shape of the word. Dan Hooker's 6 foot flat. And so we take a look at Dan Hooker. He's a hell of a fighter. Beat Paul Felder earlier last year before he fought Dustin Poirier. Paul Felder, great fighter. So a lot of Dan Hooker needed this fight to win, but Michael Chandler also needed this fight to prove himself that he is one of the best lightweights in the world. And man, did he prove it. He froze up Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, just keep in mind, there's a big height difference, and which the height difference comes to reach advantage for Dan Hooker. Michael Chandler is not a guy who you want coming in close to you. You don't want to fight Michael Chandler, who has that explosive knockout power close. Dan Hooker had the advantage when it comes to the reach and using his legs, but he didn't. Michael Chandler was constantly moving. He was putting the pressure forward. He was constantly moving around. Michael Chandler came in with a game plan. I believe it was to freeze up Dan Hooker, and I think he did a great job doing that, because Dan Hooker just didn't know what to do. I mean, Dan Hooker just looked like, I don't say he didn't want to be in there, but Dan Hooker just looked like he just didn't know what to do with Michael Chandler. And Michael Chandler took advantage of that. Michael Chandler has a good wrestling background, so the wrestling threat is always there. And like Chael Sonnen said, I was watching a post-fight analysis on it, and Chael Sonnen said, just as much as a takedown is important, the threat of a takedown is important. We're going to talk about the threat of a takedown in the Conor-Dustin match. But Dan Hooker knew that. Dan Hooker's not a grappler. He's not a wrestler. He's a striker. He's one of the best strikers in the UFC. So that should be. He's not looking to wrestle, but you got to know Michael Chandler has that wrestling background. So the threat of a takedown's there, which frees up a lot of offense for Michael Chandler. So Michael Chandler just froze him up, like I said. That freezing up that Dan Hooker did, Michael Chandler took advantage of it, and man, did he take advantage. That's probably one of the best UFC debuts ever, considering the stage he's on. You're the co-main event of a Conor McGregor fight card, and yes, every event that Conor McGregor's on is a Conor McGregor event. That's how much of a star that man is. And he capitalized off that opportunity. There's a lightweight division where the title is up in grabs right now. I mean, we got to see what Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to do with it, if he's going to vacate the title or if he's going to fight. I think he should vacate it. I think he's going to vacate it. I just don't think he wants to fight anymore, which is power to the man. I mean, he wants to retire because of everything that happened with his dad over the summer, who died of COVID, and more power to him. I mean, he's one of the best fighters ever, no doubt, but that title is up for grabs. That's the point of me mentioning that. That title is up for grabs. And Michael Chandler threw his hand in the pot and said, I want that title. The way he knocked out Dan Hooker was insane. That pop he has, that explosive pop like I was talking about earlier. Man, Dan Hooker was on the receiving end of that pop. That was electric. No other way to put it. That was an electric debut. I'm definitely a fan of Michael Chandler now. USA guy. I mean, I am a fan. I'm excited to see what's next for Michael Chandler, which I believe what's next for him. It's hard to make fights in that 155 division. We're going to talk more about the future of that division when I talk about this fight right now, which we're going to hit on the Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier fight. I'm sure we all know what happened to Conor McGregor. Got knocked out, second round TKO. And I have some feelings towards it. Like I said, I'm a big Conor McGregor guy. Bought the pay-per-view, was really excited to watch it, stayed up for it. But there was moments in that fight where I'm like, Conor can win this. I mean, not only can Conor win it, Conor can score a knockout early, because Conor has that power. He can knock anyone out. That left hand is one of the most lethal left hands in all of combat sports history. But Dustin said no, it's not going to happen. And if you guys don't know, they fought 6 years ago, and Conor knocked out Dustin in the first round. So, like, this is a big fight for Dustin Poirier, just to put it lightly. It's a big fight, mentally and for the division. So, what happens? First round. It's a good first round for Conor. It's his first round back since the Cowboy Cerrone fight. The Cowboy Cerrone fight that Conor fought was 367 days before the Dustin fight. So that's a lot of time. It's over a year. It's a year and 2 days. So his leg just got torched for 5 minutes straight. 10 leg kicks. Nothing about the leg kicks is said to Conor. Like, hey, Conor, you need to check some leg kicks, which he did. He did not. Conor did not check a single leg kick in the first round, and that came back to bite him. But he's not being told that in his corner. Someone might say, well, that's instinctive. Like, if you're getting your legs kicked and you know you're getting your legs kicked and it's consistent, check the kick. But if you see that your fighter's not doing that, you tell your fighter, hey, Conor, we need to check the kicks, man. I mean, you have another 20 minutes going with Dustin. You got to check the leg kicks, or else you're not going to make it out of the second round. But no, Coach Kavanaugh didn't mention anything about the leg kicks, and I was confused watching that. I'm like, is he gonna say something about the leg kicks? Because I mean, man, a leg kick can hold some serious power. That could take out all your power. That could take out all your power that Conor has in his left hand, and so Conor not being told anything about the leg kicks, like, hey, Conor, like, you need to check a leg kick. Conor goes on and goes into the second round. Dustin sticks to the same game plan. I'm going to kick his leg, and I'm going to keep attacking it. But the problem with that was, with Conor, he still didn't do anything to stop it. But Conor struck him hard, had Dustin really hurt in that second round. But he wasn't able to finish it. He wasn't able to finish that sequence to put Dustin down, which is perfectly fine. But now Dustin backs him up into the fence and starts pressuring him. And I said, if Conor doesn't get out of this situation, he's going to get knocked out. And sure enough, 15 seconds later, with no lead leg, Conor gets drilled and gets TKO'd. He gets knocked out. I mean, I was in shock. I mean, I was so amazed at what Dustin just done and was just so shocked at the result. My prediction was Conor inside 2 rounds, but Dustin inside 2 rounds, which I don't think anybody expected Dustin to knock him out so early. But I don't think many people expected Dustin to knock him out, nonetheless win. But he knocks him out, TKOs in the second round. Puts him back into the fence, puts Conor back into the fence, swinging heavy into the corner, and then connects with a nice shot, square to Conor. It's right into Conor's face, just connects, beautiful shot. Puts him down. And Conor's like, I mean, he was limping back to his corner. He couldn't stand up to say the winner is Dustin Poirier. He couldn't stand up for a decision. He could not. It took him a few minutes to actually stand up and walk over so they could do this decision after the match. But the coaching to me was just unbelievable by Dustin's side and unbelievable on Conor's side. But unbelievable on Conor's side, meaning that he needs to get away from Coach Kavanaugh. And he needs to get away from that gym because he has a bunch of yes men surrounding him. That's you don't need in the sport of fighting, you don't need people around you who are saying, yo, you're the best fighter in the world. That's what happened to Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey isn't even in the MMA anymore and is retired. People thought she was going to be the best women's fighter of all time and one of the best fighters at her time. She's not even in any sort of fighting. She retired because she had all those yes men around her and never got good at her holes in her game. And you don't need to be perfect in every aspect of MMA, but there's holes in your game. You need to fix it a little bit because you know people are going to abuse that. And we don't need to see that with Conor because Conor fighting is what we love. No matter who you are, you know Conor McGregor's name. You know who he is. You know how electric he is. And the people who watch fighting know the true potential of Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor had probably one of the best one-night performances against Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205 in UFC's first event in New York City. in Madison Square Garden and put on one of the best performances ever. Flawless performance versus Eddie Alvarez, who's one of the best lightweights in the world at the time. It was the champion, and that was the night Conor became the double champ. So we don't need to see that ruined by his yes men in his corner. Some names that have been thrown around is Trevor Whitman. I assure you most of you probably don't know who Trevor Whitman is if you're watching this, but Trevor Whitman is Justin Gaethje's coach. Let's just use the most recent fighter he was coaching up, Justin Gaethje. One of the top dogs in the lightweight division. Knocked out Tony. He did knock out Tony Ferguson. It was a TKO. TKO in the first event back for UFC at the start of quarantine. Their first event. He TKO'd him with punches. And Trevor Whitman's a great coach. One of the best coaches around. But Conor needs to get away from Coach Kavanaugh, to say the least. Like, that is not it anymore. Kavanaugh and Conor got it. That relationship has to be done. All power to Dustin, though. Great fight. Hell of a fighter. Should be the champion. Whoever he fights next is going to be for the belt, and that could either be Charles Oliveira, who I think it should be against, or Michael Chandler. The problem is you book Charles versus Dustin. What do you do with Michael? What do you do with Michael Chandler? Because you look at the UFC rankings for lightweight, it's hard because a lot of those guys are coming off losses. A lot of those guys are probably going to be booked with someone else. So what do you do with Michael Chandler? So I'm gonna pull up the lightweight rankings right now. So Dustin, number 1. As right now, yep, Dustin is number 1. Justin's number 2. He dropped from number 1. Justin's last fight was against Khabib for the title. Khabib tapped him out in the second round. Beautiful triangle. Michael Chandler's 4. Tony Ferguson 5. Conor 6. Then you have RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos at 7. And Dan Hooker's dropping down, Paul Felder. But the problem is, you look at this, and I don't know what's next if Michael Chandler doesn't get booked, because I think Justin Gaethje and Conor might go at it for Conor's next fight. I think that's a good fight, but obviously if that's the fight, Trevor Whitman isn't going to be coaching Conor. He'll be with Justin. But I think you book Charles versus Dustin for the title. If Khabib does vacate it and fully does commit to retire, then you have Michael Chandler here, and Michael Chandler doesn't need to be fighting RDA. He doesn't need to be fighting Tony Ferguson. He doesn't need to be fighting any of these guys. Michael Chandler needs to be fighting in the spotlight in a big fight like he just had. So that's something hard. That's a hard booking decision right there. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with it, but I believe the title fight there, if Khabib retires, is Dustin versus Charles. If Khabib doesn't retire, then I think that makes it a lot easier. You have Dustin versus Khabib and Charles versus Michael Chandler. But that's not the situation that's probably likely, so that's out of the window, in my opinion. So, moving on to the next topic, I asked some people on the Instagram account, what are some questions that I should talk about for the first episode? And one of the questions on there was about Brady. And like I said, we're going to talk about Brady later. Brady's the GOAT. The question was, if Brady wins the Super Bowl, is he the undisputed GOAT? I think Brady's the undisputed GOAT right now. He is the greatest football player to ever play football. He is the top of the line. I mean, what hasn't Brady done? Brady's done everything. Brady could retire right now, right in this moment in time, and everything would be perfectly fine. So I mean, what else can we say about Tom Brady? I think there's no discussion that Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, greatest player of all time, when it comes to football. But winning the Super Bowl just takes his legacy. I mean, it was already, I can't even tell you how high his legacy is. I can't show you on the screen how high his legacy is. But if Brady wins this Super Bowl, with the odds are stacked against him, man. That Chiefs team is no joke. If Brady wins the Super Bowl, I don't want to hear another person question if he's the GOAT or not. Because unless Brady just has like a terrible performance and the defense wins this game for him, like it's quite obvious that Brady played a bad game, then there shouldn't be any question whether or not Tom Brady's the greatest player of all time. I mean that to me, I think it's no doubt that Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, and I think it should be for many people. People throw out Peyton, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Montana, but Brady is the top of the line in every aspect of the sport. He's the leader. He's the player. Like Bruce Arians said, he lets Brady coach. Brady's been coaching those guys up in Buccaneers. Just think about the fact that if Brady does win the Super Bowl, Brady never had a full offseason. didn't have preseason, had to do OTAs over Zoom, probably in some restricted form. And he's going to take a team who has the worst winning percentage in NFL history when it comes down to the franchise. The Buccaneers are the least winning team when it comes to win percentage in the NFL history. So it shouldn't be a question if Brady takes his team to Brady wins the Super Bowl with this team. Another topic that was brought up was the 76ers. I'm a 76ers fan, so there might be some bias, but I want to stay objective with the 76ers because I've always been critical of the 76ers, especially the past few years. But they're playing good basketball over there, and that has a lot to do with Doc Rivers as the coach, getting Daryl Morey up there in the office. I mean, the Sixers are playing really good basketball. I believe the Sixers they should either be the first team in the East or top 3 when it comes to rankings. I know they lost last night to the Pistons. This was Monday night. They lost to the Pistons. So, but as of right now, the Sixers 12-6. They are top of the Eastern Conference, and the MVP of the league right now. If the league were to end today, the season were to end today, the MVP of the league is Joel Embiid by far. I mean, Joel Embiid is just putting on an absolute clinic this year. I mean, big back-to-back wins over the Boston Celtics this past week. Let's see, Joel Embiid's regular season stats right now: 27 minutes, 55 field goal percentage, 40% from the three-point line, 11.5 rebounds, 2 assists a game, a steal a game, and a block a game. People might throw out Nikola Jokic, but Joel Embiid is getting it done, man. Joel Embiid is doing everything. I mean, those 2 games against Boston, 42 and 38. I mean, come on, that is ridiculous. I mean, the only problem with Joel Embiid and the Sixers I see right now is that team. I think the Sixers, the way they've been playing right now, and big shout out to Tobias Harris for playing some really good basketball this year. I mean, I've been so critical of Tobias Harris, calling him the worst player to ever receive a max contract, but I mean, he's balling out this year. So big props to him and that team. But I think the Sixers could probably win a title, but the only thing that's holding them back, they all need to be healthy. Joel Embiid needs to play. And I've seen like fan pages of the Celtics saying, can Joel Embiid do this in a 7-game series? That question is still out there. That question is out there whether or not Joel Embiid could withstand a 7-game series. And the same thing could be said for Ben. Ben didn't play in the playoffs last year when the Sixers went off to the bubble. Ben did not play. And Ben Simmons is another problem himself. It's not. I think Ben Simmons, he doesn't even need a 3-point shot, but he needs a jumper, and that's fine if it's mid-range or a 3-point shot. He just needs a jumper. If we're not going to get Ben Simmons a jumper, then we have to focus on getting Ben Simmons and the Sixers shooting. And they did. They picked up Seth Curry, who's one of the best shooters in the league. So it's either Ben Simmons at least gets a mid-range, or we just have to fill out with more shooters. Which I don't think either is a problem. I wonder what it's like in practice for Ben Simmons chucking up shots. I mean, he's obviously chucking up shots. I mean, he has to be. But I think the thing with Ben Simmons is, this was Ben Simmons was mentioned in the question, is that it's either he figures it out or the Sixers get more shooting around him. But the thing is, with shooting, you could sacrifice defense, you could sacrifice other parts of your team. So I think it really comes down to what the Sixers are going to prioritize, and I think they're playing really good basketball right now, and I'm really, really excited for what the Sixers can do this year. Next question was about unrecognized sports, not unrecognized sports, but sports that I don't think get as much limelight as they deserve. I think one of the big sports is definitely MMA. Definitely up there. I mean, you really don't see that much MMA unless it's Conor fight week. I mean, just think about this week how much stuff you saw about UFC and MMA because Conor was fighting. Now take that week and take away like the past 2-3 weeks, but the marketing gets big in the week leading up to it. Take away Conor's fighting. How much do you see of MMA? You don't see too much. You don't really see it on SportsCenter. ESPN doesn't talk about it unless Conor's fighting. None of these sports stations talk about it unless Conor's fighting. So I believe it's very underrecognized. I think gymnastics is definitely one too. I mean, if you want to see some of the best athletes that you've ever watched, look at some gymnastics. I mean, UCLA is probably the only team that I really know off the top of my head. But I mean, they're spectacular over there. The gymnastics over there. To me, it might sound weird hearing me say that, but like I watch it with my girlfriend a few times, and I'm just in awe of like what they can do. The college level is competitive. You have especially UCLA; they're the top of the line. LSU, I believe, is another really good team, but the stuff they do is freakish. We all know about Simone Biles. I'm pretty sure we should all know that name. She's an athletic freak. But that's another sport that I don't really see that much of. But when you truly watch it and sit down, you're like, holy crap, these ladies and these guys are insane when it comes to what they're doing. Last topic for today, I want to discuss the Eagles. Now, I'm not an Eagles fan, but I have a lot to say about what the Eagles and what they've done so far this offseason. My thing is, why fire Doug Peterson? Doug Peterson is not a bad coach by any means. I would love to have Doug Peterson. I mean, if the Dolphins want, Doug Peterson, let's get him on the staff. I'm a Dolphins fan. I wouldn't mind Dougie P on the staff. Doug Peterson's not a bad coach, not by any means. But why do you fire him? A lot of people say the reports are coming out he's a control freak, but is that stuff true? Because if that's stuff true, then I understand the firing a little bit more. But I'm not really big into firing Doug Peterson. He hasn't been the same since Frank Reich left, but he's not terrible. I think when you look at Doug Peterson's coaching job, you got to look at the team that he has. Yeah, you have Carson Wentz, who's been hit or miss recently, but who else? Alshon Jeffries is at the end of his career. That whole offensive line is towards the end of his career. What is that team built around? You have no foundation on that team, and so in my opinion, you fired Howie Roseman. I think he's one of the worst GMs in the NFL right now because he is god awful. Not only at drafting but building a team. That team is depleted. That team is old. That team is, especially that front line. I don't care who you put at quarterback, whoever you're putting back there. No, they're going to get sacked an incredible amount, more than they should. But to me, that team needs a lot. Hiring Nick Sirianni, the Colts offense coordinator, as their next head coach, that's something to get Carson Wentz to stay there. Coming off Frank Reich, who was the offense coordinator the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. He's under Frank Reich's tree. He was under Frank Reich's tree at Indianapolis because now he is the head coach of the Eagles. But that to me, that's just something to keep Carson Wentz because you can't. People saying Carson Wentz wanted to be traded, but that's a hard contract to trade, man. With a guy who's so injury prone, it's a hard contract to get rid of. And if you cut him, like you're still gonna take a hit in the cap. So they were stuck, to say the least. So we'll see. Nick Sirianni, Frank Reich was a great coach, great coordinator. So Nick Sirianni obviously was there to pick his brain a little bit. So we should see if that translates over. And if that does, I think but the problem isn't the coaching for the Eagles. So Nick Sirianni, the hiring of Nick Sirianni isn't a bad hire by any means. But the problem is you don't have a team. I don't care if you put Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, whoever behind as quarterback of that team. Who is he throwing the ball to? I know Travis Fulgham was a name that was earlier on in the season. Deshaun Jackson, I saw him for one play against Dallas, and that was it. What else is there? Ertz is done. In Philadelphia, I think Ertz is a great tight end for any young quarterback. Have a nice security blanket. I think Ertz is done in Philly, so you lose that. But you have Dallas Goedert, who's not bad. I like Dallas Goedert a lot, but you have a bad secondary. Eagles defense actually isn't terrible. The secondary is just bad. So that team needs a lot more than a head coaching hire. What I would have done, fire Howie Roseman, look for a guy like Louis Riddick to be a GM, but that's not in my control. I'm not the man making decisions over there. So I think the Eagles could be good, especially in a weak division, but I think that their general managing core, I think Jeffrey Lowery, the owner, has done them a disservice by not getting rid of Howie Roseman, because I think Howie Roseman's awful in every stretch of the way of being a general manager. And that is going to wrap up the first episode of Back to Basic Sports with Mike Griff. This is so fun. I definitely can't wait to do this more. I want you guys to give me any feedback on this. If you felt that this was long, short, we're gonna have guests. Absolutely, we're gonna have some of my friends on here. We're gonna get people on this show, but this is the first show I wanted to do it solo. Want to get a good feel of it. But let me know what recommendations you guys have to make this show better, because like I said, this is something that's going to be huge to me. I'm looking to take this to the next level. So any feedback would be appreciated. I don't care if it's negative, positive, so. I want all the feedback. But yeah, this this is the first episode. This is crazy to think about, that episode 1 is done and in the books. I mean, I just got to edit this and chop it up, but I'm so proud that this is the first episode, and this is the start of something special. Like I said in the very beginning, I want to say thank you to Mr. Raymond Kirshner for setting this all up. This means the absolute world to me. I want you. This is. I just want to take this all in. Honestly, this is surreal to me. I have this whole setup at my disposal whenever I want. I could just send Mr. Kirshner a text and boom, it's set up. I mean, this only took 4 days to get this all together, and I'm gonna be editing my first episode tonight. So a special thank you to Mr. Raymond Kirshner, and a special thank you to everyone who's watching this. This is gonna be the start of something special, and I'm glad that whoever's watching this right now is here, supporting with me, because supporting me is mean the world to me. This is something that's gonna be special, and I'm glad that I have all my friends are supporting me. I mean, this is something that a lot of people that I talk to and that I'm close with are in full support, and they think it's an awesome idea. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting me, who sent me all messages, who are helping my social media spread. Like, this is going to be incredible. For my social medias, I want you guys to follow me on Instagram at Back2BasicSports60, and that 2 is the number 2. And for Twitter, I'm Back2Basics, like again, the number 2, 60. So that is going to be it for me, and I want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Like and subscribe for more, and we'll be back weekly, baby.